Weddings are online. Basically Pol Pot. You know, believe it or not, I think my views on Cambodia are way more nuanced than most of the MLs I know of. Like, most MLs will just be like, Pol Pot was funded by America, and then Vietnam came and saved Cambodia, but my views are way more nuanced. I don't buy that story. I don't buy that story. I think people should have a hard time off, and yeah. Pol Pot was basically feudalist. I'm not sure about it. It's way more interesting than that. You know, it's way more complicated. It's a complicated story, you know? There definitely was a lot of fucked up shit that was happening in Cambodia, but it was all the American bombings were like really fucked up, and all the horrors that followed from that were just following from that. But should leftists start crime syndicates? I don't know, glowy. Exactly, it's more complicated if you read about it. Yeah, dude, it is way more complicated. It is way more complicated. Anyone giving you a simplistic story is lying to you. Cambodia lost a lot of people because the Khmer Rouge didn't set up proper rule of law. I don't think that's it. I think a lot of people were lost in those bombings, and in the economic catastrophe that followed that. The complete breakdown of society was obviously a thing, but it was also a revolution, and revolutions are bloody, but it turned inward, and there were many excesses. But Pol Pot was not the reason for that. Pol Pot and the boys wanted to industrialize. They said so at the time. I know that. They wanted to start from the agrarian base and then industrialize independently from year zero, which is interesting. Whether you agree with it or not, want to know my take on Pol Pot, guys? Alright, let me give you my take on what I think. Here's what I think. I think that the primitive accumulation and the initial separation from the means of production that is necessary to create modern socialization is a fucking horror show. It's a horror show. The whole of European modernity and colonialism, hundreds of years of blood and murder and fucking hell. Then the Soviet Union speed run that whole thing, and it also had its own disaster, but it sped run it. And then China sped run it too. And then after China, I feel like with China's Belt and Road, no one has to do that ever again. Now, the capital inequalities, the inequalities of industrial capital and industrial power between China and other countries are going to be put to work in a productive way. And basically China liberates humanity from the need to go through these disasters that are necessary to modernize and industrialize. China did it itself, the Great Leap Forward. It was a big disaster, but after that, we don't have to go through that shit anymore, you know? How can you like Pol Pot? Henry wears glasses. The CIA offers you a free country, don't take the deal. I don't know if that's what happened. I don't think there was a bad person. I think Khmer Rouge was a lot more incompetent. Well, they were more incompetent than other socialist nations because they weren't Soviet aligned. They didn't have Soviet engineers. You guys got to realize that the reason there was socialism, socialist countries that survived, was because of the Soviet help. Without that Soviet aid, a lot of countries wouldn't have even become socialist. So that was the reason for that. They didn't have any help, you know? But they were reading glasses. No, it was his alter ego. CIA kills its pets 100% of the time. I think they were like other CIA-funded regimes. They start strong, they get killed. You know anything about China? And them helping Africa? China is working with Africa's governments that exist. It's ultimately the business of the people of Africa themselves to deal with their own governments. And I'm sure China will work with whatever outcome will result from that. When they want to separate